Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Hammond, and I'm part of the AutoVu Inside Sales team here at Genetec. Thanks so much for joining us today. Just before we get kicked off here, I just want to confirm that everyone is able to see my screen and everyone is able to hear me clearly. If you could just let me know in the chat, that would be awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. Really appreciate it. So before we get things kicked off here, I'll just talk briefly about our itinerary for this afternoon. So basically, to kick things off, we're going to be going over this quick PowerPoint presentation, and we'll follow that up with a quick tour of the AutoVu software within Security Desk. And then I've allocated about 15 to 20 minutes at the end here where we can open things up for some Q&A. So today we're going to be talking about AutoVu. AutoVu is the product name of our license plate recognition product line within Security Center, which is our unified platform for security, operations, and business intelligence. In these webinars, generally we're talking with our existing channel partners and resellers. So a lot of you may already be working with the video management or the access control side of Security Center. So really today, what is the interest in license plate going to be, and our license plate recognition, sorry. So that's going to be our task for today. So to start off with, we'll talk about some of the market challenges and trends within license plate recognition and within security in general. So to kick things off, more data doesn't necessarily mean more information. When we talk about operators on sites, adding additional sensors to these systems can really overwhelm them if they don't know where to look and when. So adding more of these sensors to a traditional security system doesn't always lead to more actionable information. Companies have locks on their doors and video covering their common areas. However, not all risks begin or even arrive within a typical security system. So when we have events that are occurring on site, before someone checks in, you might have difficulty determining who was there at the time. So knowing how people are using your facility is a challenge, and operational decisions can be difficult to make when you don't know when people are using your facilities heavily and what their behavior is like. So how does AutoVu address these challenges? Well, let's start off with AutoVu ALPR extends the reach of your security system beyond the front doors of your building, so you know who is on site as soon as they arrive. The license plate data and vehicle metadata not only give us new information on its own, but this also gives us a meaningful reference points to existing video and other sensors, turning those data points into actionable information, and enables you to understand events and take action faster. And then knowing more about who's at your facility has benefits beyond security. So this can provide key reference points about who's in your lots, when they're there, how long they're staying, and this can give us some great operational insight to help you make more informed decisions moving forward. So with LPR, we know who's in our parking lots and cities, where and when they came in, how long they've been there. Is this someone we know? Is this an unfamiliar visitor? License plate recognition can give us that information, which can be used to tailor responses to not only react faster, but also smarter. Beyond that, we can also associate license plates to your card holders to ensure you know whether people are accessing your parking lots when they're supposed to, or even do things like keep disgruntled former personnel out. So not only does ALPR improve your day-to-day business and security, it also provides an enormous amount of structured data, things like occupancy and violation counts, the time of day when vehicles are present, the number of vehicles in a particular area. And these kind of things can help you plan for the future when it comes to things like constructing new facilities or changing the configurations of your parking lots. So to dive into license plate recognition itself, what is automatic license plate recognition? Well, it starts off with a camera actively looking for license plates within its field of view. When a license plate is detected, we start the process of mapping that out within the image. Uh, Software is then going to verify this against various density and grammar rules to determine whether this is indeed a valid license plate. In some cases, what appears to be a license plate could turn out to be a phone number on a mud flap or a business name printed on the side of a commercial vehicle. We would consider these to be called false positives. So once we're confident that a license plate we are reading is not one of these false positives, we can then go ahead and apply optical character recognition in order to decipher and translate those characters in the image to text metadata. So reading license plates is challenging as plate formats drastically change from province to province and country to country. Grammar and license plates are the rules in the background that we apply. So certain areas that we're reading in might always have the first character on a license plate be a number, while in other states or provinces, that first character might actually be a letter. So knowing and applying these grammar rules, we can help to weed out what we call OCR equivalents. So example, things like a 0 and a D can appear similar. But if we know that that first value should be a number, then we can help guide the software to the correct conclusion. Knowing the correct fonts, so knowing correct regional fonts can also eliminate confusion between something like a 1 and a number, a 1, the number 1 and the number 7. And then lastly, special characters. So, or even backgrounds. If we shine a light at a Florida plate, for example, the orange in the middle actually appears as a 0. So using our LPR software context, we can actually help to either include or exclude elements from a license plate's background. Um, so again, these are all the different grammar rules that go into place in order to help us read a plate correctly. And here's just a quick overview or demonstration of the workflow we just described. We have an LPR camera installed up on a street pole in this case. So as the camera or as the car drives by, the dual lens camera then returns basically 3 results. We're going to get a black and white image of the license plate. Then we're also going to get our license plate metadata, and then a color context image of the background as well. So when we talk about license plate recognition performance, one of the common questions we get is, what is your read rate? And this is a real common misconception in the in LPR, as the performance is really about more than just the read rate. So in order to measure LPR performance, there are a few key components here. The first of which being the capture rate. So the capture rate is the measurement of how many license plates were captured. So for example, if I have 100 cars that drive by and 100 license plates are red, then we have a 100% capture rate. And the second piece we use is the read rate. So the read rate is the measurement of how well we interpret the characters on the license plate that we captured. Once we read the plate, we have the ability to compare this to various lists. Are these vehicles that we're expecting to see or that we don't want to see? And then we can take that information and we can react accordingly. If this is a match against our previous employees list, for example, we can actually use Security Center to move a point to zoom camera to a preset and get a better view of the vehicle. As another example, for a customer that we have that uses this outside of the security platform itself, what they actually do is we have a casino that uses LPR cameras, and when they have a VIP client that drives into their premises, they actually get a message automatically output to their hospitality team, and then that way they can actually greet their VIPs accordingly as they're coming into the building. And lastly, we have the reporting side of it. So I'll show this in our tour of the software later on, but essentially we have the ability to come back on all of this data later on to do some deeper investigation. So let's talk a little bit about the hardware now. So this is our Sharp V camera. We call it the Sharp V as it's the 5th generation of LPR hardware that Genetec has manufactured. If you were familiar with our previous Sharp 3 camera, the big change here is that we've really simplified specification and deployment. So prior to Sharp V, our cameras had fixed lenses, which means that you needed to measure and order according to a design. With Sharp V now, we've actually moved over to varifocal lenses, um, which allows us and customers to benefit from increased flexibility. So now with the Sharp V, rather than having to deal with like large site surveys and complicated design, now we have the ability to basically choose 3 single configuration settings. So the first of which being the actual housing itself, the color, do we want these in black or white? And then when it comes to the lensing, we have 2 flavors now. So we do a standard range camera, which is able to process reads anywhere between 9 to 60 feet. And then we also have the long range option, which allows us to do reads anywhere from 60 to approximately 115 feet. And then lastly, Genetec ourselves actually provide a recommended illuminator based on the state, province, or country that the camera is going to be deployed in. So as we saw earlier, license plate characteristics help determine the appropriate amount of light we have to shine on the plate for optimal performance. And that's how we're able to recommend different illuminations based on the different provinces or states that we deploy the cameras in. So our Sharpie cameras have 2 dedicated sensors on them. One of them for LPR only, which is the black and white sensor on the camera. And then the other is the color context sensor on the camera. The camera itself has built-in illumination and can perform even in the absence of any external light source. Each sensor has the ability to be separately zoomed in focus per the set screws on the bottom of the unit. And then lastly, the camera is PoE+. So it only requires a single Cat5 or Cat6 cable in order to connect. And we also include an I/O switch on the back of the camera as well, which can be used for a variety of different settings, such as doing things like an output signal to open up a gate. We can even do an input signal to do triggered reading from a ground loop, for example. So moving back over into the software side, let's talk a little bit now about FreeFlow. So FreeFlow is AutoVu's fixed LPR occupancy and parking platform. Using license plate recognition cameras, we can read plates in and out of an area that we designate as a zone. These cameras cover an entry and an exit point, and we essentially provide a closed geo-fenced loop. So as we can see in this slide, FreeFlow displays real-time occupancy count for each lot, as well as an active violator count. So FreeFlow can push occupancy stats to digital signage as well to help guide parkers to the appropriate zone with available parking. So we've seen this really improves customer satisfaction as well as reduces traffic as cars proceed directly to the appropriate area rather than clogging up already congested parking zones. So if we take this garage, for instance, you could set it up with a single camera at an entrance and exit and have a single count for the entirety of the garage. And basically with that setup, you could tell the number of vehicles and violators in the garage, but we wouldn't know which floor these violators are on, only that they're in this particular garage in general. In the example you're seeing up on the screen, we have the ability to actually put entry and exit cameras not only into the garage itself, but actually onto each floor. And by having entry and exit cameras on each floor, we can actually display each of these floors as an individual free flow zone, like you're seeing here where we get all of these individual stats for each floor. And again, this can all be pushed over to signage as well. So let's talk about a little bit about the chronology of an off-street parking session. So free flow can really be used in either a paid or an unpaid setting. Um, Usually these parking sessions begin when the plate is read by an entry camera, at which point we start the timer on a configurable convenience time. And this is really a buffer that you and the customer set, giving the parker time to find a spot and either pay or check in so that their plate is entered onto an unknown list. At the end of the paid time, we actually have a configurable grace period, which can be entered, which leaves a buffer for parkers to be able to drive out of the facility. And then any license plate that's still within the zone at the end of this grace period will move to the violation state. Another great tie-in for LPR within Security Desk is actually to be able to use a feature called license plate as a credential. So this is really an expansion over the traditional see the right plate and open a gate hot list matching model. So instead, using license plate as a credential becomes the logical extension of your access control system, whereby the license plate is a credential or a badge, and the Sharp V camera actually acts as a reader. So in terms of reporting and management, there's a depth of control and configuration of user groups, schedule access, etc. So this really plays and ties really nicely into the whole synergist side of Security Desk. So again, in this model for LPR as a credential, the AutoVu Sharp V camera is actually behaving like an access control reader. So it's scanning for license plates and it's associating the credential to a cardholder profile for the Synergist Cloud Link to actually grant or deny access based on the access rule and the schedule at the gate. All of these access control events are buffered to Security Center for monitoring and reporting purposes. And connectivity from Security Center to the Synergist Cloud Link appliance to the AutoVu Sharp V camera is connected over IP. So to summarize some of the points we talked about, high resolution cameras with a large field of view ensure you see more vehicle plates that come through your facility. And additional analytics like the virtual loop help capture even vehicles that can't normally be read, like those with damaged or temporary plates, or vehicles whose plates are obstructed by something like bike racks or so on. And by analyzing video at the edge, you need only send license plate reads to your system, keeping the load on your network and servers low. This means that you can continue to read plates even if your network or server goes down. So together with the independence of the Synergist Cloud Link, this means your license plate enabled access control will continue to function even if your server goes offline. We can go beyond simply taking action when a wanted vehicle is identified thanks to advanced vehicle analytics. So we can configure specific conditions to trigger actions. So for example, we can send a message to your facilities manager when an unknown vehicle is detected, but raise an alarm if an unknown vehicle is detected and the vehicle is moving over 30 miles an hour. So we can change your system's reaction with significant granularity. And lastly, the Sharp V comprises 2 camera sensors, built-in processor, and illumination, so you don't need any external parts. Simply install the camera and read. With varifocal, sorry, one second here. With varifocal lenses and PoE Plus connectivity, we provide adaptability to changing situations when installing, meaning that it's easier to stock and replace devices. So again, just some of the advantages of some of the actionable data that we can collect using LPR. We can automate your actions based on whether a vehicle is known or unknown and whether they should be on premise. We can define a variety of hot lists, so you tailor your actions depending on who is arriving at your facility. We can pull up associated video, access control events, or alarms when looking for certain vehicles. We can narrow this persons of interest down by looking for who was in your lot at the time an incident occurred, for example. And we can plan out our day-to-day operational task or manage major infrastructure changes based on when people are using your parking lots and your facilities. You can find out how long visitors are staying on site and whether your lots are always full or have space to spare. So when it comes to the Genetec software, we had really reached the performance limit based on the traditional engine that we were using. So in order to continue to improve it, we had to rethink our design and redesign the engine. So Genetec built a machine learning LPR algorithm. We did this from the ground up using all in-house images from our cameras and essentially trained this new software in order to have some performance gains. So this has really led to a large increase in our capture rate, our read rate, and has really provided the foundation for us to increase the depth of analytics available from the cameras themselves. So the amazing piece is the software is designed to run on the cameras themselves. So this offers increased performance with no additional server impact. And oftentimes we like to talk about, what does this look like? What does the AutoVu MLC look like performance-wise? Well, over the traditional systems, we're actually seeing just under 5% increase in performance when it comes to our capture rate. We're seeing a 10.5% increase when it comes to 10.5% increase when it comes to our perfect read rate. With our fuzzy matchable, we're seeing just under 7% in terms of performance. And the big one here, and although it's the smallest number on the slide we're seeing right now, the large one for us is actually the false positives. So we've been able to decrease false positives down by 1.5%. But when we talk about what those figures look like in an up and running system, this actually represents a 93% decrease in false positives. And this is important because, when it comes to security action, triggering responses and things like that, this takes up a lot of time and resources. If something like, a mud flap or a phone number on a company phone number on the side of a vehicle, triggers a hit on your system. So for us to be able to decrease these false positives by 93%, enabling the operational teams and that to be able to focus more on legitimate hits is really tremendous. So that's it for our presentation here. If you give me 1 second, what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna switch over screens and we can run through our back office software. So just bear with me 1 moment here. Okay, so what you should be seeing up on the screen right now is Security Desk. So this is the main page of Security Desk. So this is where all of our video management, access control, and LPR tasks live. So like you're seeing, there's quite a lot going on here. The ones we're going to be taking a look at are going to be all the LPR focused tasks and monitoring tools, which are going to be all the ones here with this yellow highlight underneath them. And the first one that we're going to talk about is going to be the monitoring task. So this is really the main home of our fixed LPR cameras. So as you can see here, what I have is actually a little setup here over our Genetec corporate campus, and more particularly the actual AutoVu building within the Genetec campus. And we're monitoring vehicles coming in and out of this particular entry-exit way into our parking lot. So like we spoke about with LPR cameras here, monitoring the entrance and exit point, they're actually sitting idle, waiting for or looking for plates to come across their field of view. And as cars do that, we're going to get read events returned to us. So as you're seeing here up in tile 2 on the top right-hand corner, anytime we have a vehicle that's entering our lot, we're bringing in one of these read events. One of the nice features here is that by combining this with free flow, if you look over in tile 4, each time a vehicle enters our lot, we're actually getting live occupancy counts. So as I have vehicles driving in, my occupancy statistics are going up. And the same thing would occur for vehicles that exit the lot. As you can see, as each vehicle exits, we're getting our occupancy count that's falling. Further to that, we're also able to view live hits pull up on the system. So this is just a basic example of what a particular hit could look like, matching against something like a disgruntled employees list, an employee that's come back on site and should no longer be there. The system will generate and display a hit within the monitoring task. And not only that, we can actually set up event to actions to occur when we have hits occur. That way, we're not just viewing this in the monitoring task, but perhaps we're sending out an email to a facilities manager or sending an alert out to the receptionist at the front desk or so on in terms of what we can do with event to action in these cases. Like you're also seeing in this particular case, this particular parking zone, you need to register before you pull into it. So as I'm getting vehicles that are not registering for their parking sessions, these are showing up as live violations on my screen here before me. Moving away from the monitoring task, I'll speak briefly about some of the reporting and investigative capabilities within AutoVu. The first of which being here our reads report. So the reads report is really straightforward. This is basically a report that we can pull in Security Desk that'll show us all of the reads on our system over a given period of time. So starting up on the left-hand side here, I have all of my configuration settings in terms of the information I want to pull in this report. And we start off with the period of time that we want to look over. So I'm running this report to show me all the reads on my system that have occurred over the last 2 weeks. This can be broken down in larger chunks in terms of days or months or years if need be. But beyond that, I actually have the ability to come in here and break it down into specific time periods. So for example, if I know that there was an incident that occurred in my parking lot, somewhere between 1:45 and 2 o'clock, I could come in here and actually run this report for that 15-minute time slot and see which vehicles were coming in and out of the lot at that time. Just beneath that, I actually have the ability to run the report only on specific LPR cameras. So for example, if I only wanted to run this report and look at reads that came through on my entry camera, I could narrow it down like that, just the same way that I could narrow it down based on my actual enforcement or patrol cars that I may use on my lot. Or for this case, we'll look at a report that's showing basically all the LPR usage on my particular facility here. Flowing beneath that, we can actually toggle this report to show us hits that generated or reads that generated hits. We can come in and actually do license plate searches, and not just license plate searches, but full and partial plate searches. So if I ever had an event where someone was only able to give me a partial plate when reporting an incident or something like that, I could still come in here and run that report and see if that plate has ever been on our particular facility. Then once we generate the report, we end up with the screen you're seeing here. So we're getting all of our reads in the bar I have up on top here. All of these columns that we have here are completely customizable. So we can add more or less in here depending on what information we want to see. So this is really a very streamlined version that's giving me my plate data, some images, and letting me know which vehicle or our camera that the plate has been read from, as well as a date and timestamp. And if we need to, we can actually come in here and drag these reads down and view them with a bit more detail, like we saw in the monitoring task. So again, we get all of our context and black and white LPR image, as well as all of our metadata, a GPS timestamp, and so on. And then within each of these that we pulled down here, I can actually individually go ahead and print these if I needed to pull like evidence reports or anything like that. Or at the same time, I can actually pull this entire report, and actually you can do this with any report within the AutoVu platform, where we can export the entire thing using the export report tool up here at the top, and that'll let us pull these out using Excel, CSV, or PDF, for example. Further to that report, rather than seeing it in this columns-based and tiles view, I actually have the ability to switch over to a map mode as well. And by jumping over to map mode, this is going to let me see where these reads are actually occurring on a map itself. So if I zoom in here, and in this particular case, I'll come up here, you can actually see I'm getting read events occurring. And not only that, I'm able to come in and, much like we just saw in the tiles, I can actually click on these to get a bit more information, as well as print this off if need be. And then in terms of operational insights, I also have the ability in these reports to do some charting and graphing. So again, this can be useful in cases where we're looking at like modifying existing infrastructure or perhaps adding on to facilities, creating more like visitor parking or creating more employee parking, or adding more signage to make people aware of parking that's not being used. We can run different graphs and charts here in order to show us that kind of information. Or to even just give us insight into how our system is currently operating, being used. So in this case, we're looking at a chart that's showing us our LPR usage. We're looking at 179 reads, and these are the percentages of where those reads are coming from. Whether they be from an enforcement vehicle or whether they be from our entry and exit fixed cameras. So next, I'll move over to the hits report. And on first glance, the hits report is very similar to the reads report. And that's because it is. But obviously within the hits report, we're going to be adding additional slicers over here on our left-hand side that are more based on investigative stuff on the hits that we collect on our system. So again, we still have the ability to select out a time period, as well as doing specific time range, as well as choosing the actual LPR units that we're viewing. And then underneath that, you can see now I have a couple of additional slices here that are going to let me choose, whether they be hot lists or perhaps permit lists on my system, so I can narrow down the hits based on the different rules that I have in place here. So if I wanted to run this report and only look at hits against my employee parking, I could come through here and I can do that. I can also look at action taken on these hits. I can look and see, was did an event to action occur? Did an operator take action on this? I have the ability to narrow down my report to take a look at those reasons and whether or not the team reacted on them. Below that, again, we have the ability to choose out basically our hit type in here, as well as continue to do full and partial plate searches if we need. And then it works the exact same way like we saw in the reads report. I can actually come in here and drag these down into the tiles. I can flow through and actually view these dynamically on the map once again. So you can see my little blips on the map are looking a bit different since we're looking at hits as opposed to just the reads we were looking at before. And then that way that lets us decipher what exactly we're looking at. And again, this entire report is exportable as a report or as an individual hit as we need. And again, we have the ability to do some more charting as well. This just highlighting out which of my particular rules or lists I'm getting the most tags against. Moving away from that and still staying within the free flow world of things, we actually have the ability to view live all of the parking sessions that are in our parking lot. So these are giving us, basically the zone they're in, the particular rule that's being applied against it. We're actually able to pull back some imagery of the the entry images, as well as timestamps and the session states. So you can see I have a lot of these that are completed here, and if I pull one of these down into the tile, you can actually see that I get both an entry and an exit read, showing me that the vehicle has completed their parking section, they've exited the lot, and so on. And lastly, what I'll talk about here is the zone occupancy report, and really straightforward. This is really just giving us some insight into the usage within our LPR lots. So you can see these are pulling our different rules and our different lots using timestamps in that, showing the number of available spaces in a particular lot and what the usage was at that time. I could use this to determine things like, hey, I'm, at 3 o'clock every day, I'm hitting like an overflow. I'm hitting 100% occupancy, and I still have vehicles coming in to try and park. Really good operational insight into, hey, maybe it's time to expand this parking lot. Maybe it's time to add additional signage and push them to another lot that's running a smaller occupancy percentage. So again, this report really useful in terms of operational insight. And finally, this is a new feature that we have within Security Center 5.9, which is the ability to create dashboards. So obviously, Security Center as a whole has the ability to run a ton of different reports and tasks, and a ton of different charting capabilities. And to be honest with you, at times it can become a little bit overwhelming. So in order to try and alleviate that and try to really like focus in on information that could pertain to a particular operator, we have the ability to create these dashboards where we can consolidate all of these different reports into a single space. So example, I have one set up here that's focused around like a parking scenario, where I'm pulling in my different hit and read reports. I'm pulling in some of those different LPR charting stats in terms of LPR usage and my rules. I have the ability to pull in my parking sessions. And what's nice is within Security Center, we have the ability to schedule all of this. So for example, if I wanted to run a daily report on all of the hits on my system from the previous day at 9 a.m., I can have the system set up not only to auto-generate that report for me, but also display it here within this dashboard, which is a really nice feature. You don't have to go back through all these tasks and manually pull these reports each and every time. You can configure the report how you want it to be configured. You can set it up on that schedule, and then you can have the schedule send it over to your dashboard here. The other nice thing about the dashboards is they are shareable. So we can have these set up to be viewable like by publicly, meaning by all of the users on your system. You can have this set up to be specific to individual users. And if that's the case, those individual users still have the ability to share these dashboards as needed with some of their coworkers if they need. So that really concludes our tour of Security Center and of the AutoVu platform. So what I'll do at this point is I'll open things up to questions. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat, and I'll keep the line here and answer them as they come through. Thanks so much, everybody, for your time today. Obviously, we really appreciate it. If you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of your RSMs, the channel sales team, or even us at the AutoVu Inside Sales team. It would be our pleasure to help you guys out in any way we can. So again, thanks again, and I'll open everything up for questions. So again, I'll keep the line open here in case any questions flow through. I'm not seeing any at the moment, so I'll keep it open for a couple more minutes. But again, thank you everyone so much for your time today and your interest. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of your RSMs or any of the channel sales team or the AutoVu Inside Sales team. But again, thanks so much, and please don't be shy. Send in your questions. Okay, so there's no questions flowing through here. So what I'll do is I'll close things out here. Thank you again so much, everybody, for your time. And again, any questions, please feel free to forward them over to your RSMs and the channel sales team, as well as the AutoVu Inside Sales team. It would be our pleasure to help you out. Thanks again so much, everybody, and have a great afternoon.